successful ones have been obviously the strict press, which has just come to brute strength.
Number 8, lane 1.
They are off. All our athletes want to monster them. That was a
Finley with a sub 40-second time.
I know.
I was not able to see the stage side.
All right, welcome back to another one of my interview series. Today I'm joined with Ireland's strongest man, Atlas Stone world record holder, world strongest man finalist in the official Strongman games, Kyle Scott. Kyle, thank you for coming on here, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me, Ross. It's great to get on.
Yeah, buddy. When I was looking down the line, everybody had to get on the show. You were definitely one of the people. I was like one of the first people. I was like, got to get on here. I didn't get you on here right away, but I was working my way down the line here. But I'm really excited to have you on here.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guarantee it has. I guarantee it. Now, how old are you, Kyle?
I'm only 22. I'm actually coming 23 at the end of next month, so still a junior technically.
Yeah, you are still a junior. Wow, to do what you've done already is absolutely incredible. I could say it about so many people that I've had on here because they are world-class athletes that have been on here. I always say that their movement looks good, but Kyle, the way your technique, you're like a technician. Everybody calls you. It's funny too. Your nickname, I guess, it's the Tax Man.
Yeah,
That is a great nickname. But what I think of every time I see you, I just want to call you Clark Kent. I mean, like this guy, he's getting ready to pull up the suit, and he's getting ready to come in and flying like Superman. And that's what I felt like you did at OSG. I'm sure we can get into that too with how you feel you did. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, but my gosh, I couldn't say enough. Like your abilities and what you do, it's very, very impressive. So I can't wait to get into kind of what led you and got you to where you are today.
yeah. Well, I guess to start from the start.
Yeah, let's go back.
Strongman at all. Like I just like even World's Strongest Man. It's on here at Christmas time. Never watched it. Never even heard of it or anything. And I came home from uni one year. I think it was actually 2019. And I watched it on Christmas on TV that year with my dad. And I just remember watching it saying, "Oh, like this looks so cool. I have to give it a go."
So pause. Growing up and everything growing up, no strength related. 2019.
Yeah, that's when the first time I heard of it. Like, I'd heard of powerlifting, heard of bodybuilding, but I hadn't really heard of strongman at all.
Unbelievable. That's so let's even back up before that. So starting off as being a young kid, did you play sports and how did you grow up with that?
Well, actually, like in primary school, never interested in sports at all. It wasn't until I hit secondary school where I started playing a bit of rugby.
And what age is that for help me understand, like secondary? What age is that around?
12
Okay.
is
So like our middle school.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even at that, I wasn't really into the rugby big until sixth year, which is about like 16, 17, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And that's when I got into the rugby a bit more, and I started training. I think I started training in May of 2016. So when I turned 16, I started training just to help with the rugby a wee bit.
Okay.
And
would you say with rugby that you were pretty athletic, pretty competitive, or kind of how would you judge yourself or rate yourself for that?
I was pretty competitive. There was the position I played for the school's first team, the big team. He was like a standard above me, but I was like just a wee bit above everybody else in that position as well in terms of athleticness and just not necessarily strength. Like I'd always say, even now, I still say I'm not the strongest. But I was able to hold my own rugby pitch, and I like that physicality of it as well.
Right. I
That was
got you.
always-
Okay. So going on from there, you started lifting weights at 16 for rugby. Did you train when you first started, did you ever think you were strong, or did you enjoy it, or was it just purely for rugby? That's all you cared about?
It was good fun as well. Like I did enjoy the gym aspect, but I definitely wasn't strong. Like this guys come in and like I remember a friend of mine came to the gym and he was actually the guy above me in the team, and he came down and I thought I was pretty good, benching like the 20 kilo dumbbells for a few reps, and he comes in and picks up the 35s after a few warm ups and starts doing that. And I'm like, oh, just when I thought I was getting good, just someone comes and absolutely smashes you at the park.
Yeah. There's always somebody better, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, always.
Well, anyway, with that, okay. So you go on through there. So 2019. How old are you? 2019.
So this was Christmas time, so that I was 18.
You're 18 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just watched Strongman, and when you watched it, you said you wanted to, like, man, I've got to try this. Were you aware at that point, of the categories and weight classes, or you just wanted to try it? Period.
I wasn't aware of anything, but a quick trip to Facebook, and I was able to find a competition in a month or so.
So you after finding out about it and saying you want to try it, you did a competition within a month.
It was maybe 2 months. It was the end of February. At the end of February 2020, I did. It was a first timers. Maybe folks your side of the water hasn't heard of it, but Dave Warner, he's one of the referees for Giants Live actually, but he's quite local to me, and he runs a first timers comp every year. And so I found that, decided, I want to be competitive as well, so I cut down to 80 and not do the night, because I said about 88 kilos when I played rugby and at uni. So I decided I'll make the cut to 80 kilos. Trying to be competitive.
So that first show, I mean, how did you train for it? What did you do? I mean, my gosh, is it just one of those things that you just show up and do it? Is that how it worked?
I actually did a bit of training for it. So if you scroll back far enough from Instagram, you'll actually see the uni gym I trained at, there was racks down each side of the gym. And so I'd run from side to side, rack to rack, with a safety squat bar with like plates hanging from chains. So I'd run 5 meters, put the bar on the rack, turn around, do the other 5 meters, and then do the sandbag, and just things like that. They did have a log, but it's the tiniest little log you've ever seen in your life. But I obviously didn't know anything, so I just was like practicing this wee tiny log, and and look, I'd done a wee bit of Olympic weightlifting that summer, just for fun, just watching stuff on YouTube and trying to learn as much as I could, and so I was implementing that into it as well.
And you started implementing the Olympic weightlifting before you found out about the strongman. You just did that because you just were enjoying kind of training after high school, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about bodybuilding. I was like, no, I can't diet for this. So I was like, I need something to do now that I finished rugby. So just got into Olympic weightlifting, just watching a bit of YouTube, trying to teach myself as much as I could, and it just worked out okay for me. So.
I was getting ready to say, you look really good with your Olympic weightlifting. That video that Josh Lancaster, I guess, made of you, where he called it the hot potato, where you threw it up, flipped it, and went, and then immediately into the split jerk. I mean, that is something. It's really, a lot of people will look at stuff and they won't see it. They'll just be like, wow, that was incredible. But as a lifter, and even lifter, like at the level that we compete at, the amount of time that you have done that in a perfect repetition, like from A to B, from the clean, landing it, to the front rack position, to throwing it up, split jerking and catching it, that all was a ton of reps, and a ton of reps done the correct way. So I recognize that, and I'm going to give you hats off to you on that. But you've been doing that. So you started that in 2019 too, because that was the summer of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But like I say implementing it, I mean, like I still wasn't very strong, like push press. So it was just having to like split jerk the log, that sort of thing. The reactive style didn't come into much later.
I got you. Okay. So you do your first show. How did that go? How did you place? Kind of how did that work out?
So I remember this quite well, because I was 5th going into the last event out of 17. I ended up 7th out of 17. It was a sled drag, and I remember like absolutely killing myself on the sled drag, and then realizing that the fella beside me was so far ahead of me. He put the tires in the front, and I put the tires in the back. And for a good year until I had that event again, I was pulling my hair out about it. Like, ignored it so much. It's like, oh, why didn't I do that? It's so simple, but
So you're incredibly competitive. Your first show trying it out, and the fact of just losing points on that, you were able to recognize the difference. Like a lot of people wouldn't even be able to see that. They would have just done the event, be like, oh, he was better than me, be frustrated. But you were able to look at, oh, you strategized from the very beginning.
yeah, like that's one thing. I'm always very competitive, and just those little things were like, oh, I think it was even during the event, I could see him in front of me, and I kind of just flicked my eyes to his sled and seeing what was going on, like mid-event. I was like, oh, why didn't I do that? But I just kept having to dig and just keep fighting him. I didn't finish too far behind him, but it ended up costing me 2 places, which is no big deal at a comp. But when you sat there for like, I think me and my brother were there from 6 a.m. to about like 8 a.m. that night. It was a really long. It was 90 competitors, and so when you're spending that amount of time in one place doing that for your first time, it's a bit frustrating. But I'm surprised it didn't put me off. To be honest, it was such a long day.
Yeah. So you went away from that. There's Kyle. There's so many things I could say with that, but my gosh, your mindset. It doesn't. We're only 10 minutes into this thing, and your mindset. It's not even a. There's no surprise on why you've reached what you've reached already, because you've got such a killer mindset of, from the very beginning with the sled drag, you recognize what he did wrong, and your level of, competitiveness. It's answering so many questions for me already, but okay. So you went away from that meet. What did you think after that? Were you thinking, I'm trying to get right back to it, another show, or were you going to give it some time? How did that go?
I'm not quite sure. I remember trying to find like the next comp, but I didn't even get a chance to because St. Patrick's Day that year, 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day.
Something like that.
Something like that. I got sent home from uni for COVID. So I like literally went back to uni 2 weeks later, had to get sent back home because that whole escapade kicked off and they just closed the campus. And so then I didn't really know what to do because obviously I'm left at home now with, 30 kilo of weights and a bar that I maybe had for a couple of years that I never really used. It's like, what am I going to do now to train? I have the whole summer, don't know how long we're going to be locked down, whatever. And it's like, what am I going to do? So I just had to get creative.
So, okay. So you basically started, is that the start of your home gym?
Yeah, exactly. So it started out with sandbags, that you could hook on the end of the bar, and like water jugs with a bit of rope. You could hook onto the bar, wooden squat rack, deadlifting with, a bit of rope tied around a curb on each end of a bar, stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. So you're like the real Rocky gym.
Yeah, it started out like that, yeah.
I don't know.
The weather was nice, but...
Go ahead. I'm sorry, what?
Well, it's just saying I was lucky enough the weather was nice because I had to train outside, so...
Oh my gosh. So you didn't even have a gym. You just had stuff that you were lifting outside.
Yeah, exactly. I remember before I built my wooden squat rack, just had 2 bins and put the bar on top of the bins, lifted it off, walked out, squatted, walked it back in. That sort of thing. Like, that's what we had to deal with for a while. So
that was your first squat rack.
Yep. That was the first squat rack I had. So.
My first squat rack was 2 5-gallon buckets with the 2x4s in there, concreted, and then it was like my Olympic weightlifting stands. That was my squat rack, and I made a smaller section where I could bench press. But the funny thing was, I actually used that this year to train on the yoke press medley. I used those blocks, I put it through there. So I've had those for, I don't know, 12, 14 years. I've had them for forever. Since 2015, I've had those dumb things.
If it works, it works.
Yeah. So, okay. So you came back, COVID happened, kicked off. You basically decided you got to have something to do. So you start training more and you start acquiring some equipment and figuring things out. What happened next? Did you end up getting inside a gym or did you end up competing? Kind of where did it go from there?
So I think I just trained pretty consistently over the summer. Actually, up until the next thing I kind of remember is December 2020, and that's when I hit my first 200 kilo deadlift. So I remember doing that and thinking, holy crap, I can deadlift 200 kilos now. That means I should be able to deadlift 180 whenever I want. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. So, I remember failing 180 like a couple of times over the next couple of weeks and thinking, because I knew enough about training, but obviously when you're in that like space, you're like, oh, it doesn't apply to me though. I know myself better. So I thought I can deadlift 180 whenever I want, and then decided in the new year that I needed a coach because I'm not being strict enough with myself to work myself back up again. So I ended up getting a coach.
And who was your coach?
So Lawrence Chalet.
That was your first coach.
That was my first coach. Yeah. So,
That's a pretty pretty good first coach.
yeah. I think I thought about getting a coach before, and I never really wanted to make that investment.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to get a coach, I might as well get a good coach and go for the full thing. So.
And I was going to ask, what led you to you really at this timeline? You've not been in strongman for hardly any time, and Lawrence Charlotte, he had been competing for years at that point. So, what kind of made you pick him? I mean, I understand he's English over that side, but what made you pick him?
I was looking at a couple of different guys, and Laws was one of those guys. I'd watched him on YouTube as well. I think he was doing YouTube at that time, and he obviously knows his stuff, and he's had all the experience in the world. But he just seemed like a good person as well, like easy to talk to, and obviously you're never really sure. And he's just one of those guys I looked up to because when I got into it, I watched everything back. So like Europe's 2016 when he beat Hathor and all that sort of thing, and I just really liked the fact that he kept coming back from his injuries and being able to perform.
Yeah. What the thing about him too, you probably didn't know about strongman during that time, but I guarantee once you got into strongman, you went back and watched a lot of things. Yeah. And the things that with Laws that you can always respect is he was in multiple eras, but he was in the era where everybody was so big, so heavy, so static, and he really held his own there really, really well. But he was incredibly fast and athletic in ways. And fast forward, I think like Laws is one of those people you could put him in any era and he would have been one of the top strongmen, and that as a coach or somebody that can help you get better, that's really good insight. I could see why you would even go with him. Yeah.
100%. Just everything you just said there was all that sort of reasoning behind going with Laws, and just even the explosiveness, because I knew I wasn't going to be one of the bigger guys. Mm-hmm. I needed to be explosive, needed to be fast, and
So going from that, you got your coach now. When did the second meet, or how did that go? What was or it doesn't even have to be the second meet if you can't remember it. Just where did it kind of go from that?
Well, the second comp it did. I have all my t-shirts up on the wall, so in my head I'm going through each t-shirt. So the second one was actually Natural Ireland's Strongest Man. I'd been following this Irish scene for a while, and there wasn't very much in terms of that level of comp coming up. So this was the first year of it. Away down, I think it was a good 4.5 hour drive down into Ireland. And yeah, I ended up, it was probably the warmest day of the year, absolutely sweating. I can actually still see myself sitting in the car park waiting for weigh-in. And was crapping myself because first proper week. This was actually under 85 as well, not even under 80. And I ended up coming second, good 10 points behind first place out of 6 guys. But like I was very impressed with myself that I actually was able to stand up to that level. Like I didn't really. I remember even from then that I did 5 reps at 85 on the log, just with like a push jerk, and even then people were talking about how technical I was. And that's
and they're talking about how technical you were, and what does that make it? 2 to 3 years maybe of doing Olympic weightlifting. Is that right?
Yeah, but 2.5, 3 years I think at that point. So
this is crazy, man. Okay, so you've been doing it, and they already are looking at you like this guy. He's technical. He's good. And then you said you got second place there. That was going to be my question. Were you happy with that? Because I mean that's a pretty high contest to go to for your second show and get second. So you said you were.
Yeah, 100%. I was buzzing with that. But the one thing that I took away from that comp, or that took down how excited I was on the last event, the stone for reps. I like had a pop in my hamstring on like the 4th rep, but I knew I needed like 8-9 reps to to place that well. So I ended up having to keep going, and every rep I could just feel it pop again a wee bit and pop again. So, but I did my 9 reps, got my second place, and yeah, that's probably the only like injury I've had is a hamstring strain from that, which took 6 weeks to recover, and that's like the biggest injury I've actually had, which is like knock on wood, the worst it'll stay like so.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say too, with that, I was going to say how bad of it, but it was obviously just a strain. You obviously didn't tear it really or anything like
No.
that. It was just a strain. But man, I never even come close to getting injured kind of that early on. And I don't know, honestly, if I would have decided to continue on, because when you realize that you could actually really get injured, you're invincible at that age anyway. I'm thinking back to when I was 19, 20. I mean, yeah, you're invincible. So like, if you realize, wait a second, I could actually really get hurt here. It's just funny. You instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to back off," you're like, "Oh, I've got to get my second place here. Let's get 9 reps."
Yeah, not competitive at all. Like
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't take much to see where your head was, where your mindset is.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you got second at that show. Obviously, at that point, I'm going to say you probably decided you wanted to go all in with Strongman probably at that point.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I did many other comps that year, and maybe 2 or 3, but I knew that I wanted to keep progressing. At that time, though, as a 90, the cut to 85 wasn't too bad, but I thought there's no way I'll cut to 80 again. I'll have to get strong enough to be a 90, and so I did a couple of novice comps, with 90 kilos and other bits and pieces, nothing really of much value until I think it was 22, where I did the Natural Irelands again under 85. It came second to the same fella, but it was joint first, really, this time. So, and then later on in the year was Brits under 80. Luke Davies was running it, and he'd seen that he invited the top 3 from Ireland's under 85 because there was no like official Ireland's strongest man under 80 at that time. It hadn't came back after COVID again. So he invited the top 3 from that, and I decided that I can't pass this opportunity down. It's such a big show. I just have to make the cut to 80. So,
So what were you keep talking about cutting to 82. So what was your body weight just walking around normal?
probably around 88 kilos.
Okay, so about 195 pounds, 194.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere around, I'd say.
Yeah, we're us on the other side of the pond. We have
Well,
No, I understand kilos now just from powerlifting and all that. I'm pretty close with it, but yeah. So you're walking around about 88 kilos, you said, most of the time.
yeah,
So, which is funny because boy, a cut from 88 to 80 is not that big of a deal now for you, is it?
well, I now I set about 83. So
You
that's
said that light.
Yeah, I said about 83, 84. Like, but the week before comp, I don't like being heavier than 82. Now for Ireland,
How are you able to be so much heavier before?
well, it's just because I didn't watch my eating. I just ate what I wanted. Like I have a massive big sweet tooth.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just ate my net and played rugby, and luckily I didn't get over 90.
Okay.
I went to the gym, but
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you were able to even walk around now at 83, is what you said. You're able to have more muscle now and still build and grow, and not be heavier. Whereas before, a lot of times when people lose weight, they lose muscle with it too. But you were carrying enough fat for you that right now you actually are still able to build and be 83 kilos.
yeah, exactly.
That's incredible.
I never thought I'd get down that far again after that first comp, just because that was brutal. Like I just ate nothing basically for 3 weeks. Not quite, but I wouldn't recommend it. I just was like on like 2,000 calories for like 3 weeks in a row and dropped it in 1,800 the week, like that sort of thing. So that was not fun. But I did it better the next time. I did it better for Brits. And after the success of Brits, I decided that, I think I could do something at 80. I think it could be competitive.
So let's before I ask that question, how tall are you?
About 5'10", 5'10.5", somewhere around there.
Okay. I was gonna say you look probably like you're 6 foot, but it's hard to judge it because I know everybody is coming in at 80 kilos. So to be 6 foot tall and 80 kilo class, that would be hard.
Yeah, there's only one man I know that actually has done it.
Who's
That's
that?
Stephen Wiley, Scottish fella, the
Okay.
big ginger beard.
Okay.
But he did OSG last year. He was 80 kilos and he's like 6'1" or something like that.
Really? I know there's that guy I think from Iceland in our class. He's pretty tall, but I don't think he's 6 foot.
No, I don't think so. That'd be
No.
brutal. Like,
No, it's bad. It's funny when I walk around there, it's like I'm one of the taller guys. And I'm 5'7", 5'8". Anyway, okay. Let's go into so Brits. You cut for Brits. Can you remember some of the events and walk me through that show? Because that was a pretty big show in your career.
yeah. So the first event was a press medley. It was a 64 circus dumbbell. No, it was a circus dumbbell around 58, 64, something like that. A 110 log, which at the time when I lifted it was an Irish record, I think. And a PB. Then it was a 70 kilo monster dumbbell, I think, and then a 120 axle, which also would have been an Irish record at that time. And I, because it was my first event of the comp, and I was like, what am I doing here? I just took my time, and I just missed the 120 axle. But looking back, if I'd actually went fast on the first three, which I did pretty easily, I would have actually had a good points from that. But again, it was my first time at this level of comp, and I was just like, right, let's just get first of your event, nice and calm, chill out.
Yeah, well, and that's something too with learning about it. I mean, I've done it for a good little bit, and I just last year, especially when you got a lot of people in your weight class, times matter. I mean, it can come down to a second, So you're coming at Brits, which is already so much massive success to be able to say you're going to do that contest. You're thinking in your head, if I just take my time and make it through the implements, you're kind of gambling that you won't be able to get them. But by going just a little bit slower, you leave a wake of people that beat you to those first, 3 or 4.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that I came to this comp thinking if I come dead last but do okay for me, I'll be absolutely buzzing, be over the moon. Which I ended up doing a bit better than that and still being over the moon. But we'll get to that after we talk about the events. I think the next one was a deadlift reps, 240 raw on a stiff bar. And at that time, my deadlift PB was 220. So I was like, right, this is, if I can get one, I can get two. That's what I said the whole time prepping for that show. And I did 220 in the warm-up, and it moved like that. And I was like, right, I have a chance here. First one out on the deadlift, I think. Might not have been the second event, actually. But anyway, first one out in the deadlift by myself. Got it for 2 reps. Went for a third. Failed the third. Didn't care. I was absolutely buzzing. Absolutely buzzing.
Well, your previous record was 220?
220, yeah. And deadlift's always one of those events that just I struggle with. Still struggle with getting there. But
So you went into warm-ups. Basically, I'm going to pull my previous PB. Hopefully it doesn't crush me here, because then it's really going to be, if you went for 220 in the back and it was an all-out max, then you really were done. So wow, you went back there and you actually did what you said. How did you know that if you could do it for 1, you could do it for 2?
Well, even now, that first rep is always the hardest. I've actually done some velocity based training, just measuring velocity of the bar. And I remember I pulled 240 there a couple of weeks ago in the suit, and my second rep was about half as fast again as my first rep. It drops you down to that perfect spot and just straight back up again. Especially with bracing at the top, it just means that everything's so much more solid than trying to pull that first rep.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you, because that's, if people are misconstruing what you're saying, that's not a touch and go rep. That's not a touch and go banging it anything like that. What you're saying is when you get that first rep and it's locked out, when you're bracing at the top and you come back down, you're in a better position for that second rep. And I agree with that 100%. I think what a lot it has to do with it is when you do a deadlift, the first rep, it is a true meaning of a deadlift. It is the concentric part of that. But when you get it to the top and you come back down, you load those muscles and come back up, it's almost like you have created just a little more of elasticity. Eddie Hall, that's how he got built up his deadlift. He would take them out of the rack. He would take it out of the rack and then deadlift it there and pull it back up. And it was like almost not overtraining, but it was like, building his CNS up for that too. So what you said there is a lot to that. So very interesting though, that you realized that early on too.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that like I'm crap at deadlifting. I need a way to be able to get better or able to get more than one rep. And it's just that being able to brace to the top when you have that bigger space to expand you expand your brace, expand your core. And like you said, it's nearly like a squat. Not that I'm good at squatting, but you get that bit of eccentric drop down to just maintain that tightness, but let it dead stop and then go again. So I got my 2 reps, missed the third though.
So when you did but that was a massive success to hit those 2 reps anyway. So
I actually went and cried after that event because I put so much pressure on myself about deadlifting this 240 that I just went and cried at the back of the gym.
because I mean, my goodness, that's almost 40-pound PR that you just hit for 2 reps.
For 2 reps.
I mean, if you're talking about making it count, I mean, when you achieve it in the gym, anytime you hit a PB, it feels great. But to achieve it at such a high level when you really need it, that's what makes you a competitor. So that's very cool.
Yeah, and it seems to be a reoccurring thing that it's always like I've never done better in training than I've done in comp. Always done better in comp. So it must mean that between me and the coaches, we're doing something right.
Very much so. Very much so. Okay, so when you got your second rep there, you're ecstatic over that, but where did everybody else kind of fall in that line? Where did you fall after that?
Well, I think there was 1 or 2 guys that got 0 reps. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have guys like Rich Molnar, and he did 16 beltless, bro.
And that's still like really high up as almost being towards record status now. I've got that. What's that one guy's name? Well, it doesn't matter. But one guy did a crazy amount of reps the other day, or not the other day, but it was at if I'm not mistaken, I think it was
Dan Benson.
I think so. What's his Instagram handle?
I don't know off the top of my head. Fortitude Strength. That's what it is.
Yeah, that he's one of them. He's one. I think his Instagram handle, the guy I'm talking about, is World's Strongest Racer.
Yes, that's Rich. That's Rich Molnar.
Oh my goodness! I thought that when you said that name, I thought, yeah, and he has crushed that. I mean, that guy is unbelievable.
He really is.
I don't want to take away from anything else he is another, but he is like built so well for deadlift, and he has trained it. He's like a jack. That's literally what he is.
Yeah, he is. I've heard him say that the reason he doesn't even wear a belt is because his torso is so short that it just doesn't give him any room to brace against his legs. And to be fair, it pays off. He's nearly pulled the world record without it. So if it works, it works. I wouldn't change anything about it. I'm
not going to tell him what to do. Yeah, I'm not going to tell him what to do. So, okay, so you got second there, or you got 2 reps there. You kind of fall somewhere in the middle of the pack, I'm guessing, with that event.
Near the bottom, but not last.
Okay, that was big.
Yeah.
Next event
is 320 yoke for 10 meters return. I think I came dead last. I took 60 seconds, which was the full time limit to do it. I think I dropped the yoke about 7 times. So it didn't really take more than about 2 or 3 meters at a time about dropping it. And that absolutely killed me.
Kyle, how the heck is your body, after only doing 3 years of strongman, how is it able to get under 700 pounds and carry it 10 meters down and back? How are you absolutely not dying at this point?
I was dying. Like in training, I remember the most I'd done was maybe like 290, 300, and it was slow. And I picked up 320 and felt the soul just leave my body. Like absolutely killed me. Obviously in comp day when the adrenaline and all, it's a bit better. But that absolutely killed me. I remember just hearing everyone screaming, like, come on, like 5 meters. And just like, right. And I think I'd done the 5 meters without dropping it, which was the best I'd done the whole 60 seconds. And it's just the whistle blew as I dropped it over the line. I was like, oh, thank goodness that's done. 7 times I picked up 320. And but at this point, I only picked up 320 once in training, and that was just not even the move of it. So again, I was buzzing to do it. But I was like, right. I remember thinking after that comp, and still think, actually, to be honest, I need to get better at yoke. My yoke's still not brilliant. But I was just happy to finish the event.
Yeah, I mean, that's brutal. I mean, I just thinking on myself, looking back for powerlifting for several years, and I remember how 500 felt on my back, and I could get comfortable with it when I finally got to 500, but it was heavy. And then the first time I tried to do a yoke, and I just put 550, just something that I wasn't quite as used to, and I was like, this is ridiculous, because it's not 2 steps backwards out of the rack. It's go full steam ahead. I could not even cope to get underneath that weight. So the fact that you're able to get under 705 and go 20 meters with it, that is sheer mind over matter.
Yeah, it was. I just was like, right. I think I actually got Dean McVie was the first person I met when I got there. And I asked Dean, would you give me a slap on the back? And he went for it. And that just was like, the switch is like, right, I'm doing this. So that helped.
Oh, I bet Dean gave you a good slap on the back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so you do that event. Where did you fall points-wise on that event? Were you?
I think it was dead last.
Oh, you said dead last.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the next event was Farmers for Distance 125. And that was my best event of the day. I think I came 5th on that out of 15. I did 51 meters possibly, or 50 meters, something like that.
Okay.
I was absolutely buzzing with that. I was against Connor Cowens, and Connor Cowens is a good solid competitor, even then. And I was just right, I need to keep up with him as much as I can. I remember dropping it, and Steve, he gets into it, like Stephen Wiley, and he was just shouting, come on, turn and go, because like the timer's running out. And I just went for it, just moved as fast as I could. The grip was fine, just my legs are absolutely going. And in that event, if you dropped it in the middle, you were done. It's like, just right, come on, keep going. Stumbled a few times, was able to just get it over the line, again, just before the whistle. When I found out I came 5th on that, I was absolutely buzzing. I was like, I came here to come last, even in every event, and I came 5th out of 15. Like that, my grip must be good.
That's what I was going to say. You had a very good grip. I mean, struggling with – so funny. It's a moving event. A yoke is a moving event, but it is different. Carrying it in your hands is different than having it on your back, you know?
Yeah.
It's still moving, but it's the different. And your grip to be able to do that was awesome. So you did that event. What was the next event after that?
So the last event was what was it called? It was a stone event, last man standing stone. That was the first time I think they used that. And I loved that event. I was very good at just switching on and off between the stones. I actually remember talking to the fella, and I just was sitting thinking, I'm probably annoying this guy. But I'm like, I'm just talking to distract myself so I don't get too hyped up until I need to switch it on. I think I left at 150, which at the time was an Irish record, possibly. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I think there was a couple of guys lifted 160, and then there was the 2 guys that lifted the world record. That was one of the Daglishas and Chris Harper. I feel so bad I don't remember which one, but it was one of them and Chris Harper, who obviously went on to win Worlds last year there. So that was 174, I think they did at that time. So I didn't even get to watch it because I'd seen Rich Monner. He dropped the stone on his chest, his knee buckled, dropped the stone in his chest, bounced off, and that part is like, no, I can't watch this anymore. I have to go. I just couldn't even watch. I remember the next week going to do stones and just thinking about it the night before. And it was like, so it kind of shook me a little bit.
Yeah, I bet that did. That's pretty. It's a miracle it didn't kill him.
Yeah. But apparently it wasn't the bouncing off his chest or the stomach that hurt. It was just that knee going, which we didn't realize at the time. We thought he was screaming because of it bounced off his chest. But look, he must have been well braced, and it just came off him. But thank goodness, like, oh, it's brutal.
Had 174 kilogram stone bounce off his chest like a basketball.
Yeah, well, 160, but that flip.
That's crazy. But
then,
okay, Kyle, I wanted to ask you this too. How, when you said that, when you were doing it and you were thinking, you keep talking about like where did you get the mindset of switching on and off? That's something that takes years. I mean, it takes competitors years to learn. You have to switch off and between events. I mean, between events is when competitors say you switch off between events, and you're just doing it in between reps, switching it on, relaxing, going back to where did you learn that? Did you learn that from rugby? Did you learn that from your coach?
I have no clue. I
You
just
just
know
do
that
it.
it's just because I get so nervous that I need to distract myself. And like you even see when I did the stone at the weekend there, that I was just standing back and just with that focused look on my face. But before it, I was just chatting to the competitors. They were asking me, "Oh, give me tack," and it's like my tacky's there, use it away. Like just chatting because if I don't talk, I'd get so stressed about it in here that I just won't be able to do it. So it's one of those things. It's either distract myself or just burn energy. So
You have literally learned what's taken most people, myself included, 10 years to learn in like 3 years. Literally. You have hit the fast track of of what you have done, and I am not taking away from you at all. I'm trying to give you credit to that because I mean that is a lot of you're a thinker, man. You've gone about this at a lot of different angles. You've not tried to just, oh, I'm not just going to be brute strength here. I'm not just going. You have relied on everything, on technical. I mean, this is crazy. So that last event happened. Where did you finish in that show?
I finished 5th out of 15.
Yeah.
At my first under 80 show where I was no, not fifth, sorry, ninth out of 15. I was like, that's too good. And I was absolutely buzzing with that. Like I came there thinking if I come 15th and if I do really well in each event and come last, I'll be buzzing. And I came 9th, and I was like, that's when I decided that, you know what, I think I could be 80. I could do well at the 80s and hopefully go on to win a couple of shows and stuff like that.
So then after that show, where do you go from that? What's the next deal? What's next on your list?
Well, I think I actually had a comp the next weekend. And that was
Okay.
way of Europeans, which there wasn't much to it. There was 5 guys at it, 2 Englishmen, 3 Irishmen. I came third at that as well. I don't really remember what else I'd done that year, but I definitely did another comp or 2. And then that brings us into last year, I think. So
That's your story? It goes from that to last year?
I think so. I don't think I did
Oh my
anything. No, I'll tell you what, in October I broke a couple Irish records.
Okay.
I did a dumbbell record, 80s and 90s. I did 86 kilos. I did a 130 axle, which was an 80 and 90 record. And then I did a 80 kilo stone record, which was 160 at the time, I think.
130 axle, is that about 286 pounds? Is that about right?
Yeah, I think so.
And you said you did it. What size dumbbell did you hit?
86 kilos. So that's
Okay,
probably
so
around,
that's okay. So you're about 194 on that as well.
yes. I was just going to get the calculator to work it out for you.
There you go.
I have 190 pounds was the dumbbell on
Good.
the dot, basically. So, yeah.
Very good. And so that was Ireland's record last year or 2022.
2022, that was October 22. And then I remember looking at the OSG qualifier and thinking, nah, not good enough for that. Not good enough for OSG yet.
So 2022, you okay, I got to hit a couple things here. When did
Yeah.
you first find out about OSG? We'll go with that first.
It must have been around the time I was invited to Brits because the top 3 Brits qualified for OSG. But to be fair, the online qualifier is probably out just before that anyway. And I must have just looked at it. I think around that time I thought, maybe next year I'll be good enough. Yeah.
So you didn't even compete or try to go to the 2022 one in Daytona.
No. There's no point. I'm not good enough to go. I don't want to go and come last because it is so expensive going across. And that was actually my thoughts for last year there. Similar sort of thoughts for last year. But obviously I ended up going. But I just had such a good year last year, that well, I had to go, I think.
You really hit it hard last year then. I mean, to have you didn't even think you were gonna be good enough for OSG last year. How did you qualify for OSG in 2023?
So I did Europe's strongest man, and I came third at that.
That's where you were carrying the shield that I had in the video, correct?
Yes, that's it. That's right. But again, even on the lead up to Europe's, I wouldn't have even done Europe's except for the rest of the year before that as well. So it started off with Natural Ireland's Strongest Man. I won that comp. And that's when UKNS, all the natural competitions in the sport and on our side of the sport started. So let me think. There's a lot of comps. Well, in the natural side of the sport, I won Ireland's, which qualified for UK's. I did UKNS in June, and I won that as well. Very, very tight in points, which qualified me for Natural Worlds, which I ended up going and winning as well. So
well, you missed that whole story. That's a great story.
Yeah, well, it's all entangled, you see, from last year. I think I did like 8 comps last year, and so it's hard remembering the order. But in terms of the natural side of the sport, I basically just had a clean sweep, just Ireland's, UK's, and then Natural Worlds.
That's incredible. Hats off to you for that too. I mean, don't sell yourself short on that either. That is an accomplishment in and of itself. So hats off to you for that too.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, very cool. And then, well, shoot, you can talk about any one of those meets if you want to. If not, we can kind of get into, I guess, getting into OSG at that point.
Yeah, well, the pathway to OSG from last year was, again, Luke invited the top 3 from naturals because there was no Ireland's Strongest Man.
Okay.
So went to Brits, and was like, right, let's just improve on 9th. I'm doing okay at the moment. I'm a lot stronger than I was. Let's do better than 9th. And it ended up being a battle with Tommy Chivers the entire time he won it last year for 4th place. And so I ended up coming 4th place, maybe a couple points off the Iglesias on the podium. At that point, I was like, well, like I made so many mistakes on that comp. There's one event, the sandbag carry, where I came 10th. And honestly, which was like a quarter of the distance I'd done in training. I just messed up on that specific sandbag. And of course, like you can't say, oh, I've been training to do this because it's a different bag. But 100%, it's good that I learned those mistakes because I haven't done it since. But I messed up, and I was like, even with those mistakes, I came 4th. I'm starting to get into like a good, not competitive because I've been competitive, but good level here. Even on the farmers, I just dropped them and they slid like that there, and I had to drag it to pick it up again. And that cost me a couple of points. And I was like, flip, if I'm only a couple of points off the podium and those guys had a pretty clean comp, I must be doing really, really well. After that comp, I moved on to Europe's with a couple of big names dropping out of that, like Ben Donnan, 3rd behind Chris and Dean with the whole shield scenario. And yeah, that was a big deal now. The shield really took me off a wee bit in terms of like even Instagram, stuff like that. People started to know who I was. Then Ireland's Strongest Man wasn't actually after Europe's last year. And so I did that in September and I won that. There's only four or 5 guys at it, which is a bit disappointing. There's more this year, but that, lucky enough, paid for my entry fee into OSG. And so it was between coming 3rd at Europe's and then getting that entry fee paid, and even the prize money from Europe's going towards flights. That's what allowed me to actually go to OSG last year.
That's incredible. Wow. That really is incredible. OSG last year was 3 hours from my house. Yeah. I mean, that was awesome. Now this year I'm complaining because well, first off, I have to qualify, but it's like 13 hours from my house, and I'm complaining about that. You guys would love 13 hours.
Yeah, well, it's probably like 16 hours for us.
Yeah.
But then that's flights and everything. So.
That's what I'm talking about. Mine is if I drove it, it's 13 hours. I could fly it in like no time. Yeah,
Uh,
that's incredible. So, okay, so you got the invite to OSG. Honestly, when you looked at OSG and the events, what did you think for this year? What did you think for you?
I thought that top 20 would be a good reasonable goal. I'm not setting my standards too high because I don't know how I'm going to react. But I have with those events, I had the chance of making top 10. And so I'd actually changed coach as well before OSG. So I ended up leaving Laws and going with Flash MST. And yeah, we just did as much work as we can going into those events, training all 6 events as hard as we could. And it worked out in the end.
Yeah. Now you said something there. You left Lowe's and went to Flash. We don't have to get into that, but as far as Flash with MST Systems and Shane German, how have you liked their training?
It's just a different level of like I was about to say complicatedness, but like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to me, but like just their knowledge is like mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Just the detail that they put into the programming, it's like nearly doing homework. Not in a bad way, but actually having to like read what you're doing and why you're doing it like that. And then they put up videos as well where you can actually, where Shane explains it as if he's talking to you rather than just having to read off cues and that sort of thing. And I just thought it was brilliant.
Well, there's several things I want to touch on with what I've seen from them too, and even talking to them last year, but just watching all their videos mainly is they have number one, they have such a depth of knowledge about training. They have, I mean, they don't just know one training system. There's a lot of training systems out there. They know a ton of training systems. And then when it comes to it, like you said, the attention to detail on the movements and how, I mean, it can be so simplistic. I don't mean that in a negative way that it is complicated, but they break it down to where it is so detailed that you could make something so simple as your deadlift or an actual clean and press, and you make that so detailed. It just makes you just fire so much more accurate, you know. And I mean that's just proof with what you did. So how long had you been working with them before OSG?
So I think it was September time. So after what comp was it? After Natural Worlds and before Ireland's, there was like 2 or 3 weeks in between. And so after Natural Worlds is when I started with Flash. And so after he got me through that comp, I think we had 12 weeks prep for OSG. And that's, 12 weeks is long enough for most coaches. But when you're getting a new coach and they have to learn how you react and you have to learn to listen to them or to like their new systems, it does take a bit of time. And it took a bit of time for us to get going nearly. But then once we got going, we flew like.
I almost want to even laugh at what you just said there. You said it takes some time, but we did get time. It's 12 weeks. 12 weeks. That's crazy. That's like such a short amount of time, and you actually got going with that and was enough to where it actually benefited you, helped you even more.
Yeah, 100%. Like I if I'd stuck with Laws, I would have done really well at OSG.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have come forth.
Yeah.
And that's not against Laws. It's just that I feel like I react really well to that style of training that Flash has me doing.
Everything you do, Kyle, has been on the fast track. I mean, you have absolutely, and I really don't want this to be like I'm dissing you for not putting in time. It's not what I mean at all. I mean, you've accomplished so much in such a short time. Everything you do is fast track. You even can get a coach in 12 weeks and kind of, it took a little bit of time to learn some of that stuff, but it really worked good. I mean, it's 12 weeks. Like, I mean, you could, that's crazy to me too. But okay, so you go through there. And we can talk about this because we were in several heats together at that show. So even that first event, How do you feel about that first event? I can tell you about how I feel about it all day long, but how do you feel about it?
Well, I actually thought I might have a chance of finishing it.
Mhm.
I didn't actually do any block training maybe about 2 weeks before it because
Mhm.
like there's no point. But when I actually did get on the block and got a technique down, which was a little bit different to what most people tell you, I was like, well, I might actually stand a chance of finishing it. Ended up not getting the yoke, unfortunately, but it was just like the bar and the dumbbell were just there to annoy me.
Mhm.
Like the dumbbell was a weird shape. I thought like a just quite narrow handle, and it made a bit like it just took time to get into the position, but it was just there to annoy me. It was the yoke that was the real killer there. And
What did you struggle with on the yoke? I'll talk about what I think, but what did you struggle with on the yoke?
well, for me, just my push press is just not good enough, and so I had to split it. I had to split jerk it. And when you're split jerking something like a yoke where all the weight's at the bottom and it's just swinging, you have to get it perfect or it just doesn't move. And like I even got it locked out above my head in the split, but because of the movement, it just rocked back behind me, and I had to drop it behind me, and I was gutted because I remember watching the video back and thinking I had it locked out. All I had to do was stand up with it, but it just swung back behind me and it was gone. So
Yeah. Yeah, for that event, that's exactly when it comes to the yoke, it's funny in the warm-up room, we actually put on comp weight. We worked up the comp weight and we threw I mean, there was me and several other guys. We threw it over our head. I was like, man, I'm gonna go out here and smoke this yoke. I was confident. And when I watched everybody fail and I was like, I'm getting ready to take this thing right to the end. I mean, I felt that good about it. When I got to the yoke, immediately when I picked it up, instead of it rocking back and forth this way, I've noticed it rocking this way. It was loose. It was rocking back and forth like this. So I readjusted. If I should have taken, a second or two more to actually make sure I was dead center,
yeah,
because when I pressed it, I came so close to that lockout and pressing it. But once you spend it all out on one shot, it's hard to repeat that. You're not going to get another shot of it. And that's kind of my story with it. But yeah, that was something funny to do it in training because, a lot of people felt confident that they were getting ready to black. I mean, they said, "Oh, the yoke's going to be the easy one. The block is what's going to be hard."
yeah,
And the yoke annihilated like a ton of people.
yeah, 100%. Like we thought that getting the first three fast would be good points. Actually, getting the first three at all would have been brilliant points.
Sure.
I think actually I got fast two, and that was good enough for like top 10 maybe.
For,
Which,
yeah, fast on the first two. I did decent points just because. And the funny thing is, when I watched it back, like you said, getting the dumbbell in position, I cleaned the dumbbell and it went like this, and all I had to do was reset it. That
yeah,
right there, that was like several points there, and you
yeah,
don't even think about it when it's just like you said, the detail and stuff.
yeah, exactly. But
I was most shocked to see Shane German miss it.
yeah,
Because
100%.
Shane, I mean, I'm gonna give him his credit. He's probably one of the greatest pressers, if not the greatest for his weight, really ever. And that just showed. Wait a second, this movement was enough that it threw some top class athletes off.
Yeah, it really did. It was just even tuning on the yoke, like a normal yoke, is so much different to those anchor yokes.
Mm-hmm.
Just crazy the difference between them. But
Okay, next event. How did you feel? What are your thoughts on the frame and the Denny Stone carry?
I wish it was just the frame
Yeah.
because like I wish they kept the same weight, the
Yes.
original weight. Because like to be fair, I picked up the frame nearly tripped straight away. That's because trying to go so fast because I knew it was light.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish they kept the 297 or whatever it was that they originally. Because like in training, I was given a free session, basically just chuck on free 15 kilos, and I ended up accidentally doing free 10. I accidentally ended up doing free 20, which was 2.5 kilos over the 90 kilo weight, and I finished it in like what was it, 10 meters? So I finished it quicker than most of the 90s probably would have finished it in training. Just that frame, and I was like, right, I'm so ready for this 300 kilo frame.
Of course you did, Kyle. Of course you did.
However, the Denny's, I did not enjoy them so much.
Yeah.
Just like I never really had much of a problem with them in training. They were just slow because they were so cumbersome. But when I locked them out on the day, my hips were just shaking. I just could not like get myself steadied. So that's why I ended up having to drop it. I thought it was quicker to drop it rather than try and like steady myself and keep going. I don't know if I would have done any faster if I hadn't dropped it, but just could not steady myself, just hips rocking back and forth.
Well, and if they hadn't have changed the rule on that too, they made it unlimited drops from that day.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you can move with faster intent if you know that you're able to drop it or not drop it. And that makes a difference. And I'll not say that changed everything, but it did change just a little bit there. And changing the weight, if they hadn't have changed the weight, you would have had most of our class not being able to do it at all, and then you would have had like just a couple guys actually really being able to do it. Even like incredible Ben Donnan, he's incredible. He dropped it, you know.
Yeah.
That was with the reduced weight. So I mean, you never know. You get used to training on, you know, your own stuff, your own kit. But, you know, I think I loved it. To me, that frame felt absolutely incredible. Like I'm used to training. My frame is probably 6 inches wider than that frame. And, it's probably just a little bit lower, maybe the same height. I'm not sure, but regardless, it was a lot wider. That frame felt so good. The handles were thin enough; it fit perfect. So I liked it.
Yeah, like the frame I was tuning on was I bought it from someone for that purpose, and when I found out the measurements of the frame, I measured it, and it was like half an inch out, like half an inch wider, half an inch like shorter. I was like, that is absolutely perfect. The handles were thicker, to be fair, than the ones on the day, but
that's really better too, because that just makes your grip more solid.
Yeah, 100%. It was.
Yeah. Where did you finish? Where did you finish in that event?
Was it 6th? Something like that? No, 10th. Somewhere around that. I think it was. If it had been just the frame, probably like 3rd or 4th, but it wasn't. So I think it was 10th, maybe 15th, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you did that event, moved on, and then the deadlift ladder. I'm pretty much minus 4 or 5 guys. The rest of the world is at 635 in the series. That's what most everybody did. 545, 585, 635. And if you got there fast, that's what it was. And then you had, you know, it was more than 5. It might have been, if you counted everybody who got past it, it might have been 8 to 10 guys that got past that 675. And then obviously only the 2 hitting 700. So, you know, if you got 635, you did pretty good. It just was, how fast did you get there? It came down to that time.
Yeah, 100%. And that was my plan, was to get the first 3 as fast as I could. And just with like I always say that on an axle, I'm so much better because I can't just handle the whip of the bar. And those are really, really whippy bars.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was stuck to I think I got it to my knees maybe. I just couldn't get it over my knee. If I had got it over my knee, I would have hitched the crap out of that. But just could not get it.
How much was that one?
It was 288 kilos.
You're talking about
third bar.
The third bar. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually, that's my worst event. I came 25th in that event out of 32. It was 8 kilos over my PB, which I'd also pulled in a ladder at Europe's 280. I pulled at the end of the ladder for a massive like 20 kilo PB, and yeah, just 8 kilos more, and just could not. Deadlift wasn't going well up until that. I think the most I'd pulled was 270. I was actually, after Europe's, I was thinking, flip, at the end of the year I could pull near 300. No.
Well, yeah, eventually sometimes the progress does slow. I'll say that, you know, your rise has been incredible, and I hope you just keep going as fast as you can. And I guarantee it doesn't matter. You found ways where it's got hard, and you found ways around it in training to where you can keep getting better. It'll just keep getting tighter, but you're going to keep, you know, getting better with that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. It's just like, even with the deadlift, I just kept deadlifting the same way. We didn't have time, me and Flash, to change my deadlift. We've worked on that now, and it won't be as much a weakness this year. And no, it won't.
The tax man has spoken.
Yeah, it's more consistent in training, and that is the biggest thing. because now I can actually train it consistently the same instead of being slightly different every week and just like nearly pulling a different deadlift technique every week, which is
Interesting.
what it
Now,
was coming up the Worlds. It was just a wee difference here, a wee difference there, and because I just couldn't find anything consistent. I couldn't actually use straps either. I just could not deadlift in straps. I'd pull like 240 kilos for 3 reps mixed, and then like deadlift ladder style, and I'd put on the straps and miss it, take the straps off, and then pull it strapless. Like
that sounds to me almost like when you're pulling mixed grip, you're able to keep the bar almost tucked into your armpits, like keep your lats engaged. And when you have the straps on, it's taking it to where you're too far forward and you're pulling more on your toes. You're not engaging all those muscles.
Yep, exactly. But we just didn't have enough time to like take the time and sort it out. So we're just like, right, well, if you can't use straps, just do as much as you can mixed. And so, yeah, I pulled 270 mixed grip. I remember doing that and thinking this is great. But I wish I could pull it in straps because it'd be so much better. But I just couldn't do it.
Well, I mean, still, man, that's just is what it is. You working on it, like I said, you're always working on stuff to get better. So I'll guarantee you'll come back better. After that was the load and drag medley. Where'd you finish there? How'd you like that? We were in that heat as well.
Yeah, I think did I come third in that? I think I might have come third in that.
You were fast.
Yeah, like I'd been training that sled so heavy. Like I'd literally been pulling that sled like constantly moving for 40 seconds. Like I think I did 270 kilos on a sled on AstroTurf, and that killed me. Like I've never trained at any event as hard in my life.
That sled felt light, didn't it, for you?
So light. I was so disappointed. I trained it so hard and so heavy, and it just was like just gone.
What that event really was about was how fast could you pick up the implements and get them onto the sled.
Yeah, it was. And luckily enough for myself, I was able to go pretty fast. There was a couple of guys just messed about with trying to pick up that shield sandbag or whatever it was called, Hussa bag. And lucky enough, I'd seen a wee thing from Derek Owens in the warm up because I was struggling, and it just clicked. Grab the top of it, push it, and then grab around it. So I just did that and just flew off of it. It was great.
Well,
but I was struggling just with that pickup up until he showed me that. But he didn't even show me. I was just overheard him talking about it. I was like, oh my goodness, that's brilliant. I did it a few times. I was like, that works so well for me.
I was standing right there when he did that. I knew exactly what you're talking about. I was watching him do it, and I looked at my dad, he looked at me, and I said, that was pretty good. And I was like, but I'm not changing what I did. I like what I'm doing. I'm not changing it. And I think what he did and the way he did it, I think it was incredibly efficient, and it was efficient every time. I still like the style of how I was planning to do it. I don't make excuses. It was what it was, but I missed out on the final from that event by 2 points. And what I did on it was I was slow. You can see me picking up the implements and running with them, and I'm slow. And when I get to the sled, I just take off fast. The implements, I had the worst stomach pains that day and carrying the implements on my stomach, which it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If I would have done better, if I'd have locked out the yoke, if I was fast on the deadlift, I can piece that whole show together, which is what you're saying. You have to attack all those details. But that one right there, when I walked out and I looked at the scoreboard and it finished me out at 12th place, I had to go be by myself for just a little bit because I was like, we got to go back home for another year and try to attack this thing again. That's a hard pill to swallow, but that's what we loved about the sport so much too, because it's so much work and time that you put into for the little moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you finished that event, where did that put you? Because you got 25th in the deadlift before that. So where did that put you points wise going into the final?
I think it was 7th. I think, and then with the points rejig, it brought me down to joint 8th or something like that.
Okay.
Which wasn't too bad. I wasn't too worried about it. But
that's where I was thinking you were at. And when I was out there on the last day and watched you, 2 guys that I thought were just going to absolutely come out swinging and shock everybody was you and Dylan Thompson. Because I said, these guys are going to be like catapults on the sandbag throw. I said they're just going to look like a trebuchet throwing this thing. I said, and if they don't have any bobbles here, I was talking to my parents and my family there. I said, if they don't have any bobbles here, watch and see, because then they got Atlas stones, and that's really going to be good. So, how did you? I watched the whole thing, but how did you shape up with the sandbag throw, and how do you think you shaped up with it?
I don't think I could have played it more perfectly. It's not a brilliant event for me. Like the technique's there, but just with the heavier bags, I just can't get that power. Like some of the guys can't. Like Dylan Can, he won that event, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was brilliant. But I just knew that if I just took my time being consistent with it, and then I remember getting to the first 18 bag and just swinging it, and it just wasn't right. I didn't get the swing right. I lost tension, but I couldn't stop it. So I kind of just, that's why I did the awkward wee tumble, like about to that height and came back down. I was thinking, holy crap, did he try and throw that there? I was like, no, I just lost the tension. So there's no point wasting energy with a crap swing. So that's why I just let it drop, reset it, and then got it. And then the same with the next bag. I was like, I can't do it straight away. I'm going to take my time. I'll put it a wee bit closer and just try and get the perfect swing. And I remember sitting, as I swung it up, looking, and it stuck on the top. I was like, and then it went over. I was like, yeah. Oh,
yeah. That had to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And then I looked down and seen 5 seconds less and thought, screw it, the 20's there. I might as well give it a go.
Yeah, just throw it. Yeah. Yeah. So when you finished that event, where did you finish out of the placings on that one?
I think it was 5th, actually.
Yeah, which was funny, but that was still really a great performance for you because after that you got stones coming.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the guys that were up near the top, they didn't do so well in that, so it just closed everybody up.
Yeah.
Except for Chris Harper, who just smashed it, I think, still anyway. I didn't do as well as he thought, but he definitely came second or third.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the even Dean and Ben Donnan, they just didn't do so great.
Yeah. Dean was kind of a funny one to watch too, because Dean is he's such a titan, and in training he looks so good with that too. But it's just one of those things. If you make one bobble wrong, it kind of throws it off. Yeah,
and like if you stand me next to Dean like that, I get good 6 inches, if not more, probably from Dean as well, and that it does add up. That release point being a good 6 inches to a foot higher, in terms of height and like limb length, it adds up. So
absolutely. So okay, so paid off for you there. So then going to the stones. Let's finish out with that. How did that one go? You already know.
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Yeah.
So beating Chris Harper on the stones was, he came into the last day thinking I'll win both of these events. He did better than me on the sandbag, to be fair, and he did do well. And then the stones, I just smashed it. Like I remember running. I remember actually standing there waiting from the start when the guys were resetting the stones. I remember saying like to one of them, like, we start at the far end, don't we? I was like, it was a stupid question, but I thought, I'd better ask it and not worry about it than to actually just do it wrong. Like, when you have those wee doubts, you're like, it is definitely that far one. I'll just ask to be sure, though.
Because you're so intense dialed in, but you're like, wait a second, you're like, you don't want to distract yourself either. Yeah. It's just all those doubts coming in.
So I think it was even just to distract myself for another wee moment, because I knew we weren't ready to go. And then once all the guys cleared away and he was getting ready to go, just again, flick that switch. And there's actually a great photo of me, and I'm just staring down the camera, just like just really intense, really focused. And like, you wouldn't even recognize it's me, barely. But you're not used to seeing me that focused. And I just flipped the switch. And when the whistle blew, I just started and kept going. I've never one motioned the first 4 stones in training. I maybe one motion the first 2, and then 2 motion. I didn't even think. I just kept going. Yeah, and I knew I could finish it. I'd done in training. I'd finished it in training with one less stone, but about the same weights. But I had to take like 10, 15 seconds to reset my tacky for the last one. And on the day, I didn't even stop. I didn't even think. I just did it. It's the same, actually, not to keep skipping back and forth, but at the weekend there with the other stone, the record, I didn't even think. I couldn't do it. I just did it.
And you just, and I mean, was that you? So you weren't even really with the record. You weren't even planning on doing the record.
I was thinking about it.
You
I
just
wasn't
thought
sure.
you just thought it could be possible.
Yeah, I'd actually like hurt myself during that comp. I dropped a warm up frame on my foot, and my foot was absolutely killing me, and my Achilles was killing me, even to stand up on my toes on that left side. And she was like, "I'll only do it if I kind of need to do it." I'd won the comp before doing it, and Maddie, they'd set the bar the wrong height, so Maddie Costello, who's running it, said you can either do the 184 over that height to win the event, or you can do the record. I was like, I thought for a second, I was like, screw it, put it up. We'll get the record.
So you just broke the world record on the Atlas stone. Didn't have to do it to win the comp, and they had to raise it up higher to do it, and you did it.
Yeah, that's how it ended up. So I think it's like just going back as well. I won the comp, or I won the stones at EPS at the start of March there as well. So I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm pretty good at stones.
What's your kryptonite?
Deadlift.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. I was gonna say we have got to find your kryptonite. My gosh, dude, you're incredible. This is absolutely blown my mind. It's just like I keep not trying to take away from you at all. I don't mean that, but some guys just find a way to win. And Kyle, you're just a winner. There's no other way but to put it that. Your mindset and what you've been able to do, you're literally a winner. I mean, you've got to be thinking in your head now, you're gunning for the world title.
At least podium, at least improving last year.
Yeah.
But like, what was I going to say? I like to make it interesting. Much to like everyone who follows me dismay that I'm always like behind going into the last event or like half a point ahead or something like that. I like to keep it interesting, you know.
Oh yeah.
But like since that show at the start of March, I've really struggled with training. Even Ireland said like the comp weight was 95 for the log and axle. I did 9 reps in 75, and I remember like 2 weeks before in training, I failed 95 in the axle. In my second rep in the axle, so 4th rep, got it then, and then went and failed 95 on the log. And then the timer was 60 seconds, and I was like what? Like I started thinking like, what am I doing for this comp? Like I'm not in, like even the yoke into sandbag event, I did it in 29 seconds on the day. I think it was taking me like 50 seconds in tuning. I just couldn't. I just didn't have anything in me. No go, and no like want to go hard. And still at the moment I'm struggling with that. I went like I'm supposed to be doing like restorative stuff this week. Haven't done very much of it, just don't want to be in the gym. I went up and trained with a couple of friends today and just kind of messed about with some like heavy weights, like stuff that I normally chuck about. And I just have no go. It's really frustrating actually. And it's not the first time it's happened to me, but it's definitely the weirdest because I'm doing so well. Maybe it's the pressure I'm putting on myself, I don't know, but yeah.
It could be that very much, but what you got to look at too, Kyle, is number one, the success that you're achieving. There's a lot of people that have gone their entire careers and never achieved that. That's number one. And number two, with what you're saying, the adrenaline rush of doing good or doing a show is huge.
Yeah, that's
So
massive.
what you're doing is, and you're doing a lot of them, so you have had success that most people isn't even right. Almost the whole population for that, they have not experienced that. So you're experiencing an extreme high and everything else, and it's just going to be a process to come down. I mean, it would be hard. I mean, you train. Do you have you train your own home gym now? Still, don't you?
Yeah, I have an old hen house at my uncle's farm that it's great because I can do everything out of the rain, but it's so dull and dark. And for a while I was like, right, you know, that's suffer in the shed and that's work as hard as I can. And now I'm not so much like, you know what, I don't need to suffer. A bit of a mindset change.
But maybe you do. Maybe that's what's made you a champion. You know where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in my basement where I train, and I have done that since I was 11 years old. I have been a basement warrior since 11 years old. That's all I've had. I never have had a gym membership my entire life. I've not reached your success. I didn't make it to top 10 last year, but
Not yet.
what I'm saying is I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't beat yourself up if you ever lose the fact of it being fun, or just taking it away from your self growth or that. You could fall out with it,
Yeah.
and that would be a really big shame for you. I know I didn't reach near what you reached, but I left strongman and powerlifting for about 2 to 3 years, and I did some CrossFit and some things like that. And I came back, and I was like, I will never leave that again. I cannot, But what I'm saying is I don't know. Don't kill yourself yet to where you shoot yourself out, because to accomplish what you've accomplished now is absolutely incredible. But genuinely, you have a lot more to accomplish in the sport.
Yeah, I know the potential's there now, especially after OSG. Like someone was joking to me, like, at Natural Worlds actually, that I could be the first natural in a long time anyway to win OSG, and I was like, wait to see how I do this or last year there, and like now I know that I had the chance to do that, especially if I can stay at 80 for the next year or two. But I just need to get my roll back.
Yeah, it'll come, buddy.
Take off between comps, because like I have like supposed to have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comps before August.
That's the problem right there. You're killing yourself. That's your problem. You're taking away that motivation, that drive. I mean, that's going to be hard.
Yeah. Well, I've already pulled out of one. I'm supposed to do UKNS to defend my title.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that now. Record breakers is in 2 weeks' time, and I'm not ready to break more records. So, I don't know what I'm doing with that. But then Brits under 80, Chaos Classic under 90, Europe's under 80, and then Natural Worlds under 80. Like, I can't, like, none of those are little shows I can just pull out of. Like, neither was UKNS, the UK's natural, but something had to go. And so we'll see what happens now for the rest of the year. But after that, all focus is on OSG.
Yeah. I tell you what, you guys overseas, you compete a lot.
Like, most guys do 3 or 4 comps a year. I do 3 or 4 comps every 3 months.
I can't even. That is something that you've done that I have definitely never come close to. You've done probably as many shows in 1 year as I have done over the span of 16 years.
So, really?
Yeah, well, because I didn't start competing. Well, I can cut that down. I didn't start competing until I was 18. So that puts it as 9 years. You have done more competitions in 1 year than I have done in 9 years.
So,
Yeah,
like, I've done 21 comps. I think I was just my 22nd comp, and I've my first comp was in 2020. That was the only comp I've done that year. I've done 20 shows in 3 years now.
I can't even fathom that. I can't. Kyle, when I went away from, I did my first show or my first meet, it was actually powerlifting. But every time I would do a competition, I would look at it and I would say, my dad said, "You gonna get back on it? That competition experience, that was good for you." And I would say, "Yeah, I will, but not for a little while. I've got a lot to build here. I've got to get stronger here. I've got these holes to fill." I would fill what I thought, and then I'd go and I would get second again. I was always the bridesmaid, never the bride, or whatever. That was my story for a long time. I didn't actually win my first just even contest. Powerlifting I could win some, but strongman I didn't even win my first contest until 2022, and it was just a regular show. Then I went and did a regionals to qualify for OSG and got second again. And then last year to qualify for OSG, I won a regionals, and that was a contest with some really good athletes. It was Jason Telebettin or whatever.
Yep.
He's in our contest. He pulled 675 at Worlds this year. Rob Youngerman was there. Nate Jones competed at Worlds. I mean, there were some good guys there. That was kind of really a big turning point for me. But I mean, it took me 9 years.
Yeah, a long time. Well, funny enough, my girlfriend, I actually met her at OSG. Um,
This year.
this year, yeah.
I was watching that. Okay.
Yeah, so Finley's her brother. He competes, obviously. He did really well at OSG, and she's part of the. She's only competing twice this year, and like twice, like I did twice this month. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
And since you brought Finlay up, tell him I want him on my show too. I gotta reach out and get him on here too, because he's another guy. How old is he?
He's like 6 months older than me. He's 23. So.
That's what I'm saying. He is so incredibly young. He's another one. I met him, talked to him and Dean. I met Dean before. It doesn't matter, but I talked to him. I thought he's a guy that definitely I want to get on. He just won Scotland's strongest man as well.
Yeah, I was there watching as well, actually.
Yeah, that was last weekend, wasn't it?
I was 2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago. Ireland's was last, and then he was 2 weekends ago. So yeah. Well, not to give away too much of Finley's story, but his first strongman comp was OSG, and that blows my mind. Like 2 years ago.
2022, the Hurricane in Daytona was his first show.
That's his first strong. Like what? I wouldn't have even like.
I tell you what,
but
you guys, if there is one thing that should be the takeaway from anybody else watching it with you guys that are so young, is by getting number one, it's you guys and it's your mindset. I'm not taking that away from you guys at all, but getting a coach and having somebody they can fast track past so many mistakes that you would make if you hadn't had that. I wouldn't change my story now, but you're talking about, how you felt. And, I remember being, 18 years old, pulling 500-pound deadlift every single week, multiple times. And I remember how many times I got hurt. I remember some of the numbers that I was doing then, they're not even as far from where I am now. But now it's just different. It's like how I can hit them and I actually can go back. It's like I'm actually able to figure out so many things. I wouldn't change it now, but it definitely stalled the progress. And you guys have figured out a way to blow by all that.
Yeah, like I wish I got a coach so much sooner. And I've only had a 20, what did I say? January 21 was when I got my coach. And I wish I got it 2-3 years before that, because I deadlifted every week in the gym. I remember my GCSEs actually. I was doing my GCSEs, and every exam I had, I went to the gym after and deadlifted and maxed out. And we would beat my 5 kilos every week for 3 weeks. This is 17 or something like that, 16 or 17. So you can nearly get away with that. But my deadlift form was so crap. Yeah. And no wonder my back was wrecked, and my knees are wrecked, and that's taken a long time to fix. Even up until working with Flash for OSG is the first time that I've been able to squat after OSG, squatting consistently every week without worrying about knee pain. I'd have to put on sleeves and pray that my knees would be fine. Mm-hmm. I did all my squat work up to OSG without knee sleeves, and that was a big win for me, because I never squatted, never could figure out how to squat when I was younger, and just killed my knees.
Yeah. Well, there's so many.
You know what I mean? And my knees were not brilliant. Better now, and even my back as well. My back was broke from deadlifting wrong for so many years. And that's it's the. Can you hear me? You're lagging up a little bit. You hear me? Yep, I hear you. Still hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I was just saying. Yeah, the details on that stuff, it does make a big difference. Stalling your progress, I got to 585 deadlift at 19. I only weighed about 175, and I was 19. Sorry, it took me till I was from 19 to 24 to hit 600 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot of years for 15 pounds. And honestly, the funny part was after I got to that point of 600 pounds, 615, 600 for reps, even 635, it's never been stalled or a point where I'm okay, it's just train, put the work in. Every time you have to hit it, it's going to be there. And that was a big shift, because every time I trained, it was go kill it every single time as hard as you can. And obviously, I've had to study and learn multiple training things for that. But anyways, it's not my story, it's yours. But Kyle, to sign off on this, what you've done is absolutely incredible. I cannot. I mean, honestly, I'm going to think about this the rest of the day. I mean, just to be so young and have the mindset to win that you have. It just goes to there can be things that are trained in people and this and that, obviously, but there are some things that you are inherently born with, and you were born with that mindset. You were born to be competitive and think things through and do it the way you've done it. So I wish you the best of luck and success. And with your motivation now, I hope you get that fire back. I mean, I don't know how I will with all this contest, but I hope you do.
We'll see. You'll see on my Instagram when I eventually get going again, because I actually put up some training videos. But
yeah, I love it. It's the cold barn where you got your little stocking hats on.
I might just have to go proper Rocky, and just that might do it for me.
Yeah, you got to embrace some real suffering.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say to sign it off there? Whatever you want to say, you can plug yourself, whatever you need to.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on, first of all, and then thank you for anyone who follows me on Instagram and that sort of thing that supports me, because I really appreciate it. And I always say that when you're competing, that you can't hear anything. I find it's just all zoomed out. But when I watch back on videos and actually hear people like shouting and screaming for me, I'm like what? Why are you shouting for me? But I really do appreciate it. So. Thanks so much.
It's the way you come off. It's the way you come off. My mom, it's different. It's not our side does not care about strongman as much as your community does over there. And my mom has never really cared about it. But at Worlds this year, she's like, "Who's that guy?" She said, "He's so good. Look at his technique." And she's like, he seems so nice. It's just people just want to be your fan. I mean, my mom my mom was a bigger fan of you than she was me. No, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, people, it's the way you come off. You come off like a genuine, nice guy. And I remember talking to you at OSG. I was like, "Oh, he's a good dude," and people want to see your success. So, that's what I'm trying to do with this platform anyway. I don't have many subscribers on YouTube yet, but you guys have put so much time into what you've done, and these stories deserve to be told, and you guys deserve that recognition. And for you, this story definitely needed to be told. So I'm glad. I can't wait to get part 2 after you've gone even farther. So
yeah, well, it'll definitely be an exciting part 2 with all those comps that I have planned for the rest of the year. So.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, Kyle, we're going to end the show there, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me again, Ross.
All right, see you.